It is September 6th, 2010, and this is Stan and Norma Schwartz, and they have been married 60...
And November 16th will be 64 years.
November 16th, 64 years. And after the war, Stan came back to New York, and they met. So how did that happen?
You tell.
Well, I was working, as I mentioned before, I was working downtown at the custom-made belt and novelty company in the office, and I would leave in the morning every day, and I tended to wear suits to work. If I had basic colors, I had black suit, blue suit, navy suit, that is, and a brown striped suit, and I wore blouses and the accordingly accompanying clothes that went with it, the shoes, etc., hat. That's how we dressed.
Looking pretty spiffy then, huh?
Yeah, very specific. Yeah, that's the way we dressed, and so that's how I dressed to go to work. And I passed his father's store, of course, to get to the train.
What kind of store?
His father had a kosher chicken store, fresh chickens, and that's where I passed the store every day, of course. I mean, to go to the to get the train to go down to work. One day on a Wednesday evening, I got a phone call, and it was a man on the line and said hello, and I said hello, and he started talking. He said that well, he says, you wore and told me what I wore these last 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, what I wore. I had been wearing suits, and he described them to me. And I said, well, who is this? Well, he said, if I tell you, he says, you'll know. I said, if you don't tell me, I'm hanging up. And he says, no, don't do that, don't do that. And he also told me that I went to the movies on Monday night. And I thought, okay, let me see what this could be. I had just severed my relationship with Mr. Van Epps.
Oh, Van Epps, yeah.
With Mr. Van Epps on that Monday morning. Monday evening when I came home, I went to the movies after dinner to the local store, local movie theater.
15 cents at night.
And I thought, well, he knew what I was wearing. Maybe he got one of his friends to call me. But then he didn't know that I went to the movies. And so I kept pushing for him to tell me who it was. And he says, this is Stanley Schwartz.
As in this Stanley Schwartz?
As in this Stanley Schwartz. And I said, okay. And where do you know me from? And he said, you passed my father's store. I said, well, what store is that? And he told me, it was the chicken store, the kosher chicken store. I said, okay. And he says, I'd like to go out Friday night. I want to take you out. And I said, okay. I said, where do you want to go? He says, well, where do you want to go? And I said, well, I don't know, where would you like to go? He said, wherever you want to go. He says, it's fine. And at that time, my brother, Bill, and his wife were living with my parents as well as myself, of course. And they were married, but they were, early married. And and he said, and my sister-in-law said, tell him we're going. She tried to get him to take us to go with them. She was going, they were going, my brother and sister-in-law with a couple of his friends to Nicky Blair's Carnival, which was a nightclub. They were just opening up, and they wanted to go, wanted us to go with them. And I said, some friends of mine, and I wasn't going to tell them that it was my family, some friends of mine are going to Nicky Blair's Carnival, for dinner and the show. And would that be all right? He says, and there was silence on the other end. And I had never done anything like that, tell a man to where I wanted to go. It was up to him where he wanted to take me. And I said, this is if that's all right with you. If not, we can do something else. And he said, no, that's okay, that's fine. I said, okay. I said, I'll tell you what. He said, I'll meet you downtown. I said, okay. And I made arrangements to meet outside of the office building where my brother worked, downtown. Because I would be downtown already anyway.
That was in Manhattan?
Yeah, in Manhattan. Yeah, we call it downtown. It was Manhattan, yeah. And so I said, I'd like to know what you look like, before we go, so I know who I'm looking for. And he said, okay. He says, I'll meet you. I'll be outside of my father's store, he says, tomorrow morning. I says, okay, fine. And when I got off the phone, my sister-in-law was very excited. She said, oh, that's great. She said, we'll see what he looks like. And I asked my mother, I said, who is that? And she says, oh, that's the Schwartz. He says, from the chicken store. He says, because my mother always went, bought chicken there, or kosher chicken there. So the next morning, I come down, I'm ready, going to work, and there he is standing in starched white uniform that they always had. It was overalls, yeah, it was overalls, over his regular clothes, because it was a dirty, thing. It get full of blood, etc., from the chickens. And so he had nice starched overalls, and he stood there, and he was waiting for me to come. And we said hello, and fine, and then we, battened down when we were going to see each other on Friday. And I told this to him later on, and my thought to him was, when I looked at him, I wonder what it would feel like to put my fingers through his hair.
I guess you found out back when there was some, right?
Yeah, that's right. I sure did. And so
I don't think you ever saw me with hair, did you? In the car.
Anyway, we met, Friday, and we're waiting, and we're downstairs. My sister-in-law and my brother are downstairs about his office building, waiting for Stan. Well, Stan is late, and my sister-in-law, in her inevitable way, she says, if he stands you up, I'll kill him. Because that's how, she was like that. Not
Clarice?
literally, but
Is that Clarice?
Clarice, yeah. But, that's, she would be very disappointed. And we waited about 15 minutes, and then I see him coming down the street, and he is almost running, because he was running late. And he was almost running, coming. Oh, so I says, here he comes, he's coming now. Okay. The reason that he was late was because he had been to a ball game in the afternoon. And they were running over time. And I'll let him tell you about that himself.
Was it the Dodgers?
Yeah, it was the Dodgers. What was the game that you were seeing?
When?
When you were late to our first date.
Oh, no, that wasn't the Dodgers, that was the Yankees in Cleveland.
Yankees in Cleveland?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
okay.
Bob Feller pitched a no-hitter against the Yankees that day.
Okay,
That's
well.
me and the houseboy. He took care of our tent.
And so anyway,
There is Stanley and the houseboy.
He was the houseboy.
So he's showing us he had hair at one point.
yeah. And so we went to the show, and he still didn't know that it was my brother and sister-in-law, you know, because I wasn't going to tell him right away. And then afterwards, we got through. It was about 10:30, you know, when the show was over, and I thought to myself, okay, we're going to have an early night. And then he says, well, then he came out and said to me, he says, well, what do you want to do now? And I thought, my goodness, I mean, he's already spent so much money for the you know, for the dinner and the show and all that. I mean, you know, it
I
was
want
a
to look
lot
at that
of,
again.
it was a lot of money. And so I said, I don't know. I says, he's, well, you want to go to the movies? I said, sure. So I went into the restroom with my sister-in-law, and says, well, I'll see you later. She says, well, where are you going? Aren't you coming home? And I said, no. I says, we're going to the movies now. And she says, oh my gosh. And so we went to the movies, and we saw Xavier Cugat.
And then we went someplace else.
And then we did something else. And we went and had some coffee. You know, this is like 2 o'clock in the morning. About when we came home. And then he wanted to see me again on Sunday. We bypassed Saturday. And so he wanted to see me again Sunday. And Sunday, I think, was Mother's Day. If I'm not, it was in May. I know it was in May. So
That
maybe
was the
before.
first Sunday in May.
Yeah, the first
So
Sunday in May, yeah.
The next week was Mother's Day.
And a couple of his friends we met at Central Park.
Yeah, what was his name?
And we had a nice afternoon
Yeah.
at that time with them. And then after that, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday, Friday night, Saturday, Sunday. And about a month of this went on, and then I had gotten a phone call from a friend, a young man that I knew that was in the Seabees, and he was coming into town, and he was in port, and wanted to go out, take me out. And there was nothing specific with Stan, you know what I mean? So at that point, and so I told him, I said, well, I'm going to see this man, you know, this boy is from he's in the Seabees, and I was going to go out with him. And he got a little bit shook up about it. And the next thing I knew, next time I saw him, he had a ring. He wasn't taking any chances.
So you'd only known each other like a month?
Yeah,
About
we were
that.
about a month. We knew each other for about a month, and then he gave me the ring. And
I
this
take
was
it you
true.
said yes.
Huh?
And I take it you said yes.
Oh yes, I sure did. And it was funny because the Friday night, our first date was right after work, and I changed at work because usually I don't wear dress clothes at work. I wore my suits, etc. You know, I mean, a
Right.
business type thing, and so I had changed there at my office, and so the salesman that I had seen, he says he saw me changing and knew that I had a date, and so he was a little bit on the jealous side.
Oh, well.
But I told him, I said, look, I says, we'll see other people, you'll see other people, and then let's see, we'll go from there, because I wasn't really that enamored with him. But I guess he took his place very nicely.
That's it.
And they all lived happily ever after.
Yes, and then we got married in November. So it was quick.
Yep. Okay. So that was May, and you got married in November.
Yep.
Alrighty.